Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Robert Rodriguez, and I'm a middle school special education teacher from California. And along with my colleague, Christine Sampson Clark from New Jersey, we have the privilege in leading in this work today. Before I introduce our panelists, I'd like to begin by offering a native land acknowledgement. We begin by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional lands served by our first people. The land that we occupy, where I live and teach in San Bernardino, California, is home to the San Manuel Band of Mission Indians. The band is made up of the Yamava clan of the Serrano people, who have traditionally lived in the San Bernardino Mountains. The name Serrano was given to them by the Spanish, and it is a term for Highlanders. However, the real name, Yamava, means the people of the pines. We honor America's first people and all elders, past, present, and emerging, and we are called on to learn and share what we have learned about the tribal histories, culture, and contributions that have been suppressed in the telling of the story of America. Thank you. I'd now like to introduce our panelists for this wonderful webinar series that we have. Moderating today's session is none other than the fabulous NEA President, Ms. Becky Pringle. We will also be joined by Laura McGuire Spratt, an assistant principal from Adams 12 five-star schools in Thornton, Colorado. Next, we will have Dr. Donna Christie, a school psychologist and president of the Prince George's County Educators Association, which is a local affiliate in the state of Maryland. Then we have Ms. Adrienne Bibbs, a parent and vice president of her school's PTA in Illinois. Next, we have Emma Alvarez, a ninth grade student from Anaheim, California. And last, we will be joined by Ms. Adrienne Beeman, paraeducator in Maple Heights City Schools in Ohio. I'd now like to invite our president, Ms. Becky Pringle, for give us some welcoming remarks. Becky.
Thank you so much, Robert. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This is our interrelated reality. Hello, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Becky Pringle. I am an 8th grade science teacher, and I have the honor of serving as the president of the 3 million member National Education Association, this nation's largest labor union. I shared those words from Dr. Martin Luther King, not just because we just commemorated the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, but I share those specific words because they're actually at the core of the goals of NEA's Accelerated Student Learning Program, which we are proud to announce today. We all know the impact that the global pandemic had and honestly continues to have on our students and on all of us. None of us was left untouched. We also know that the pandemic exacerbated gaps that we as educators knew existed, our parents certainly did, and those gaps have been there forever. So make no mistake, our Accelerated Student Learning Program is not designed to make up for just 2 years. That's impossible. We know that. But we are committed to learning the lessons of all that we have experienced. Grounded by that commitment, we are determined to do all we can to ensure every student, Black, white, brown, Indigenous, AAPI students, our students living in poverty, our LGBTQ plus students, our students with disabilities, our students who are English language learners, every student has educators and caring adults in their lives and in their education who are willing to do the hard and collective work of addressing the academic, social, and emotional needs in our students that the pandemic revealed and certainly worsened. I am so grateful to the folks who have joined us today and who have joined us in this work around the country who understand that when we say every, we actually mean every. And the only way we can mean that is when we understand that it is our shared responsibility. These are the people who agreed to step up and make the dream of the Accelerated Student Learning Program a reality. District teams from all across the country that brought together educators, parents, administrators, union and community leaders to learn best practices and share what they're learning to accelerate student learning and offset learning delays. We are determined to plant the seeds of change throughout our public school systems so that it can become the foundation of a transformation that will open the door to justice, fairness, and equity for every student and for our nation. We recognize public education is the foundation of an inclusive democracy, economy, and society. And at NEA, we are guided by this strategic vision that we will reclaim public education as a common good, as a foundation of our democracy, and then together, we will transform it into something it was never really designed to be: a racially and socially just and equitable system that prepares every student, everyone, to succeed in a diverse and interdependent world. This is the work that we must do together. The pandemic only made it more urgent, but we know that it is only together that we will make it so. I'm going to turn the conversation now back over to our NEA Executive Committee member, Robert Rodriguez, who will describe in some detail the path we followed that brought us to where we are today. Robert?
Thank you, Becky. In addition to what you shared about bringing the teams in together to work collaboratively on acceleration versus remediation, we also highlighted our focus on labor management collaboratives, which is a really important key tool to use as we work within these teams. The simple act of adults collaborating and working together in intentional ways to solve the problems that they face in their schools has enormous impact on student learning and other educational benefits. And I want to just point out a little bit of the research that was highlighted within our convening. When our members, teachers, and support professionals through their unions partner with administrators on student-centered issues, more students learn at or above grade level standards. In schools with high level of collaboration, 12.5% more students learn at above grade level in English language arts. 4.5% more students learned at or above grade level in math. That is with doing nothing other than adults finding ways to work together. No fancy new initiatives, no new programs, just working together and sharing in the decision-making on accelerated learning. Another benefit for students when there's strong collaboration in schools, teachers stay in their jobs longer. We all know that teacher retention is a problem, particularly in high poverty schools. In affluent schools, teachers stick around regardless of the level of collaboration. But in high poverty schools, as collaboration increases, teacher retention increases to the point where there's no statistical difference between them and affluent schools. The same can be said about other educators we see within our school system. When educators and our students' lives in meaningful ways and stable, we all work together for the good of the students. Finally, the research out of Rutgers University and Cornell University shows that when educators are engaged in collaborative processes, it results in improved goal alignment between teachers and principals. Educators feel more confident in their effectiveness, and both union reps and principals were seen as stronger professional resources for their colleagues. This one is particularly interesting and compelling to principals because it's counterintuitive, but by sharing in the decision-making, principal leadership is viewed more positively. Becky, I'm going to turn it back over to you so we can hear from our panelists about how they connected the research that we had within our convening into practice back in their school district.
And thank you, Robert. And what you said about collaboration is it seems common sense, and it seems simple, but it is complex in that you have to build the systems, processes, and structures, not only to create that collaboration, but to sustain it. And that's what our students are looking to us to do as a caring adults in the system, that we're going to sustain the work that you just described. So it seems only fitting that we would turn to our students. You know, Robert, as we talk about not only accelerating student learning itself, but when we talk about the well-being of our students, about creating the space for them to be the leaders they are and we need them to be. I am constantly reminded that it is so important for us to nurture and support student agency. And that's why I'm so excited for folks to hear this next voice. We're going to hear now from Emma, a 9th grade student from a community school in Anaheim, California. It is so critical to have students as part of this discussion, to have their voices in our conversations. Emma, at 9th grade, Emma is already a staunch advocate for students, and she most recently joined me and 7,000 of my closest friends, educators from all over this country, at our national convention, our representative assembly. Emma, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you believe students need most to have the best possible learning environment?
Yeah, so my name is Emma Alvarez. As Miss Becky said, I am an Anaheim student. I have always been in leadership ever since I was young, and I think that leadership for students is so great. Having the opportunity to be able to do all these things at just the age of 14 is having every classroom, always connected with the adults in the need. I think being connected with people around us, people are making big choices for us. And so right now, I am very connected with a lot of teachers. Having those good opportunities to get to know.
Emma, can you hear me?
I think
Emma?
I'm cutting.
Emma, can you hear me?
Yes.
Uh-oh. Emma?
Yes.
You are cutting in and out. So let's do this. You said you can hang around with us, okay? Why don't you go out and come back in, and I'll come back to you. Is that okay? Okay, let's try that. While Emma is going out and coming back in, because we really need to hear her voice. If we're ready, let's go ahead and go to Laura McGuire Spratt. Laura is an assistant principal at the Studio School in Tarver Elementary School in Thornton, Colorado. She actually has recorded a video message for us about her team's main focus and the impact on students when labor and management collaborate. Can we roll the video?
Laura Spratt, and I serve as an assistant principal for Adams 12 5-star schools. Our district is located 20 miles north of Denver in Thornton, Colorado. I was the administrator from Adams 12 invited to attend the convening last February in LA. I had the pleasure of working on a team of district colleagues, including our DTEA coordinator, a 5th grade teacher, an interventionist, our social emotional learning specialist, and an ELD teacher. Each of us brought important considerations to the table. Our group also consisted of the perspective of a paraeducator that came to us as one of our critical friends. At the convening, we were provided time to learn together, look at research, and talk about ideal learning opportunities for all students. Our team agreed on 3 main drivers, but we really focused on 2. First, preventative cell structures, and second, leveraging our frontline employees, our teachers and our paraeducators. We knew that we couldn't buy something with $10,000 to impact all of our students, so we focused our efforts on capacity building. We received some district leadership support when we presented our project to the Board of Education and our superintendent only a couple of weeks after we got back from LA. So what have we accomplished? We're training teacher leaders from 2 schools in restorative practices on November 14th. These teachers will leave with resources to go back to their schools and lead professional learning. We are also in the process of implementing a pilot program for online paraeducator professional learning at one of our schools. Our goal is to increase their efficacy so teachers have highly effective paraeducators in their classrooms supporting them. The learning at the convening was about equity and giving every child the chance to learn in rigorous classrooms with the very best teachers. It was also about loving our students and our work. The teachers that I worked with are leaders, and they are spreading the word about accelerating for all students, and I see it alive in their classrooms every day. My role in this project was critical. In order to develop a plan, teachers needed insight about budgets and schedules and a balcony perspective of what is possible and who to talk to. Also, once we were back in Colorado, the teachers all went back to their classrooms to teach, and it was our job to promote the project by communicating with a variety of stakeholders and keeping it in motion by meeting our deadlines and setting up meetings. It was also my job to ensure that we were aligned with our school and district initiatives. It was a great opportunity, and I'm thankful to have been involved.
Wow, we really appreciate Laura taking the time to send us that video. She actually was preparing at the time for a school pep rally, so you see her in her T-shirt, and she, it's great to see in real time the work that they are doing while they are with their students and promoting good teaching and learning. I hope one of the things that you captured from what Laura shared with us is that the team made decisions about what they were going to focus on. And that they chose restorative practices as that key is something that I hope that many of our teams will learn from and connect back with them, so that as they learn, we're all learning as kind of a cohort. I saw you beaming, Andrea, beaming. When she talked about para-education learning, actually leaning into that and increasing their efficacy. And that's always important to ensure that everyone's a part of that team. Probably one of the things we all have to remember is that we need to create that space and support, provide the resources and build that capacity to love our students and to continue loving the jobs that we are doing for them. I believe Emma's still trying to get back in. I don't see her in yet. So we're gonna keep moving and we'll come back to her. Dr. Chrissy, we're gonna come to you. Madam President, you were asked to participate in the Accelerated Learning Convening along with others earlier this year. And we thought it was really important that your voice be in this space because you are a local leader. And I always say I was a local leader, and I always say that's the hardest job in the association, in our union. And you are a school psychologist, so you are seeing up close and personal some of the issues and concerns that our students and their families are bringing to our schools, and although you would, I'm sure you also would be the first to say that it's not new, but the pandemic, like with everything else, it made it worse. So the importance more than anyone of educators and the work that we do, especially as we are living in what we're now calling post-pandemic. Not sure we're post. Exactly, but in the world we are in today. So if you'll start by talking about why you believe as a union leader, why you believe labor management collaboration is essential to student success. And then if you go into talking about your role as a union leader and how your team responded to this call to action.
Absolutely. And thank you for that wonderful introduction, President Pringle. I am deeply honored to share with you the insights and experiences from our team's participation in the Accelerate Student Learning convening. Throughout my career, I have witnessed the profound impact of education on the lives of our youth, and I firmly believe that the path to student success is one that we cannot tread alone. The journey toward excellence in education requires collaboration, unity, and a shared commitment to our students' well-being. And this is why I advocate for the crucial role of labor and management collaboration in creating the best possible learning environments for our students. At the heart of our mission during the NEA convening was a focus on empowering educators as co-regulators, fostering a classroom culture rooted in community, communication, and care, and embracing instructional practices that honor students' diverse interests and needs while providing targeted support. And we understand that students who feel unsafe and disconnected from their learning and school community are not ready to learn. So our plan is to design and address these critical issues. So our approach not only benefits our students, but also empowers educators to enhance their well-being and develop strategies that in turn benefit our students. It's a cyclical process where the well-being of our educators directly impacts the learning environment they create. So as president of PGCEA, I have the privilege of working with our new superintendent and his dedicated staff, as well as ACE Ask Me Local 2250 that represents our paraeducators and other education support professionals. We also have SEIU 400 and ASASP represents our administrators. So to implement this transformative plan, we understood that teachers and paraeducators and all the other educators could not do this on our own. Our district faces significant challenges with 12 schools identified as low performing and over 100 grappling with concentrated poverty. Our vision is not limited to a select few schools, but aims to uplift the entire educational landscape. So our goal is to create a scalable model that will be adapted to meet the unique needs of all of our schools, particularly those facing the most significant hurdles. We firmly believe that focusing on labor and management collaboration, fostering a culture of care, and tailoring instruction to individual student needs, we can bring about transformative change in education and set our students on the path to success. Labor management collaborations demonstrate that when everyone is clear about the destination and has an equally important role, the administrators, the teachers, the paraeducators, the school psychologists, the professional school counselors, every educator will have a positive impact on success. So our commitment to collaboration, community, and care is unwavering. It is through these principles that we will continue to work tirelessly to create an educational system where every student has the opportunity to thrive. Together, we can build a brighter future for our children and our community. And we are excited that the NEA provided us with this opportunity to connect across the district and the local union affiliates in Prince George's County to engage in this work. We are sure that as we transition with a new administration through this labor management collaboration, we will partner to make sure that our students and educators have the resources to accelerate learning in the post-pandemic world.
So, Madam President, I love nothing more than a great alliteration. Now, so, I just need to say this. See, I'm saying this in front of everybody, so, you could call me on it. But I'm a big believer in stealing stuff from people. Borrowing stuff from people. I come from a tradition where, you give them credit at first. So I'll say Miss Donna said it. President Donna said it. I'll say that first time. Second time, I just say, oh, and it was said. Next time, I'll be just like acting like I made it up. Community, communication, and care. Oh my goodness. And then you tied it with a nice little bow at the end when you added in collaboration. So let's just keep going with the C's. Let's keep working on that. That is excellent. There are a couple of things. There's so much in what you just said. But I want to point out too, it is so important for folks to understand that if educators aren't well, they can't be there and show up for their students. That is critical. So the idea that you're focused on empowering educators to actually take seriously their own well-being, so they can be there, and for the union to be involved in that. I really appreciate that, and I also appreciate how you said it. You know, we say self-care a lot, and it's so much more than that. So I really appreciate that you said it well. It is the well-being, and everyone has to define what that looks like for themselves. And then the other thing that I wanted to lift up from what you said, I did not know this, but the fact that you reached out and partnered with other unions, AFSCME, SEIU, the administrators, that is fabulous. Oh my goodness. It sounds like we're building a movement. It sounds like we're building a movement, Madam President. That's what that sounded like. I don't know. I know we'll have questions at the end. But there's one I want you to be thinking about, because I'm going to come back to you. Because there would be people, and I'm sure there probably are people who have joined in, and they might be saying, either our own members or others outside of us who don't know who we are and why we exist, right? Who would say, really? Is that union work? I want you to be able to talk to say why what you just said is union work. So I'm gonna come back to you. I see a phone, and I'm hoping it's Emma. Emma, is that you on the phone? Emma?
Hi.
There you are. We can hear you nicely. Go ahead. Tell us who you are and why this is
Hello.
important for our students.
So my name is Emma Alvarez. I am a freshman at Anaheim High School in Anaheim, California. And, you know, to me, I feel like all these great opportunities are going to be such a great thing for students. As a student, I have been involved with leadership since I was in the 4th grade. I have seen different kinds of experiences for students all around every single year when I start a new school year. And I think that these things are so important to students because it is really changing how we are going to view the world and the world of education. You know, there are students that I know that don't really care for school. They're like, you know, what am I going to do with this information when I'm older? But, you know, I don't think they realize yet that the way that education is changing for students is so life-changing. Like, my mom tells me all the time how this was not happening when she was a student here at my district, and how this wasn't happening in the nation. And now that it is, she thinks it's amazing. And I even think it's amazing as a 14-year-old teenager. You know, it's so important for students to finally have that equity with other people and, you know, reach out to those groups and see, like, this is what's happening in my schools, reaching out to other people and having connections with adults even, you know. I have great relationships with adults all over my campus, and it's so life-changing to have those connections because you finally feel like, oh yeah, I can tell them something and they will actually listen to me instead of just being like, oh yeah, whatever. So I think it is very important for our students.
Wow. Life-changing, huh, Emma? We're also going to come back to you, and you're going to talk a little bit more about that. But you know, we talk a lot post-pandemic about connections, particularly with our students, and how that's directly related to their well-being. And for you to articulate the importance of those connections, being for the adults in the system to create the space for those connections to happen, not only with your fellow students, but with adults who are working so closely with our students, is really important for us to hear. So we thank you for your role in doing that, and we look forward to hearing more from you. Next, we're going to go to our parent who has joined us to talk a little bit about the role of parents in all of this. Adrienne is a parent, and she is a fearless leader within the PTA. She is the vice president. Thank you so much for joining us, Adrian. And you, I believe, have 3 children currently in the public school system. So the first part of my question is this. How did this process make you feel in terms of being part of a team? And you were also at our first convening when Dalton developed a plan. Since then, tell us a little bit about the contributions to the plan that you've made by being a member of this team.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Pringle. Again, my name is Adrienne Bibbs, and I am in my 2nd year as Vice President of the only PTA today in my district, Dalton West District School 148. First, I want to tell you a little bit about my background. I am a high school graduate with some college credits in human services. I'm a Navy veteran. I'm a single mama to 10-year-old twin girls, so it's actually 2 children, a self-employed hairstylist. But on the flip side, I'm also a kid that grew up in the Cabrini Green projects on the north side of Chicago, with a mother who became a drug addict, a father who left the family when I was 11, and a subsequent recipient and dependent on government and community assistance. So I've always loved to give back to children, especially those whose background are similar to my own. But in my family and my community, I was never able to do so on a large scale. So when I was approached to be a leader and founder of a new PTA, I was 100% on board. As VP of the only PTA in our district, I've been able to get to know parents and students, school staff, and administrators on a more personal level. In tandem with my leadership role, I've gotten to know many of the children in my neighborhood and school. I've become somewhat of a surrogate mom to some of my children's friends who live in our neighborhood. And what started as a carpool between myself and a grandmother helping to raise her grandson, it ended in me gaining 3 more children and an insight into what the children in my community need. I found that some children leave home most mornings without having breakfast. And although our school serves breakfast to many students don't make it in time to eat. So some of those children visit my home every morning before school and are often welcomed with a full breakfast and snacks for later in the day. So how did I get involved in this work? Well, one day I got a phone call from my PTA president asking me to take her place at an NEA committee in Los Angeles. And I had so many questions, including what is accelerated student learning and how I, as a parent, fit into that equation. Later, after speaking with our fearless leader, Ms. Darlene McMillan, I learned that the convening was about improving our schools and what we could do as leaders to make sure our unique needs were addressed and met. But again, I asked myself, what could I bring to this table, right? I'm no educator, I'm not an administrator, nor am I an expert. I'm just a parent who loves helping children. But upon meeting my team in LA, I was welcomed with open arms. As a PTA leader, I often interact with educators at my school, but the space that the NEA created helped build actual relationships with my team members and the ability for all of us to work closely with our district superintendent, who was also at the convening. Our critical friends were crucial to our teamwork, maximizing time and resources, pushing us to dig deep into the root of our community issues and valuing each other's points of view and mapping out our plans on paper. We were also given opportunities to meet and discuss with other teams from across the nation who deal with their own unique set of community problems, and some like our own. Being able to share ideas and experiences showed me personally what the saying, "it takes a village," truly means and looks like. So step by step, my team identified the causes of student hunger, the impact hunger had on learning, and how hunger continued even after the school year ended. And with all of the resources provided during the convening, my team was able to come up with an action plan that catered to the specific needs and resources of my community. It was during that time that I learned that my role as a PTA leader and parent was equally as important as the many teachers, staff, and administrators that I was surrounded by daily. I learned that my voice in my community was needed and heard. I felt empowered, eager, motivated, and excited to take what I learned back to my community. I wanted to let other parents and leaders in my community know how important their voices are to accelerate student learning and to use them regularly and actively because someone is listening. In the end, I walked away from this convening with new relationships, a deeper respect for educators, and the hunger to do more in my community.
Wow. Wow, Adrian. First of all, I know that others on this call would join me and say to you, don't ever say just you are part of the equation for the solutions we are finding together for our students. Parents are our students' first teachers. They care and love them in ways that we need them to, and help us as our partners. I taught science for over 30 years, and I could never have done my job. I taught middle level learners, so that's a whole other thing, middle school. But I couldn't have done my job without you. So you're not just a, so I just wanted to say that. And I just need to say, my goodness, thank you. You are feeding our babies. Thank you for doing that. You know they can't learn if they're hungry, or they don't feel that sense of community surrounding them and cheering them on to succeed. So you're joining your team, but this bigger team to share what you know. And to help us all learn and grow together is absolutely critical. So I just needed to end your segment with just thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we have now another critical voice that we want to hear from in our discussion. We know how important it is to make sure that all of our educator voices are involved in this effort. We have one of the most incredible leaders, Miss Andrea Beeman, joining us and has joined us in this effort. And Andrea, you served as a critical friend, which was kind of a new concept for us. So you specifically focused in on helping the Adams 12 team. And we want you to talk a little bit about what your experience has been, and highlight the significance, and as you do that, highlight the significance of our education support professionals in our efforts around accelerated learning, and just kind of wrap in what it means to be a critical friend and how you specifically supported the Adams 12 team.
Thank you, President Pringle. I was so honored to participate in the Accelerated Student Learning Program, and I am equally honored to be on this panel today to share with you what all this means to educators like me, and most importantly, our students. When we came together in Los Angeles at the Accelerated Student Learning Convening, we were working towards improving student learning for all students. And I was constantly thinking about this work and what it meant to my students. And I know that every educator there was thinking about their students as well. So that's why I want to start with the story of one of my students who I will call Francis. Francis was one of my students living with multiple developmental disabilities. He had a warm smile, a great sense of fashion, and a strong connection with his family. But his challenging behaviors in the classroom affected his learning condition and those of his classmates. To help Francis, a team consisting of a school psychologist, 2 intervention specialists, and me, his paraeducator, went to an education service center to develop a plan to help Francis. We had just finished getting some incredible professional development as a team that enabled us to work together in ways that we hadn't thought about before. Through this PD, we learned new strategies and built our muscle as a team for Francis. We reviewed his IEP and the behavior data from his school day. We spoke to his parents and everyone who interacted with him. We discovered some pre-existing conditions that affected the start of Francis's school day. And we unpacked the data, and it helped us formulate a plan to help him. So we adjusted his school time. moving his core subjects to the beginning of the school day and ending his day with what he liked most about school, and that was working in a vocational training program. I even changed how I greeted him when he arrived on the school bus daily. I was upbeat and I greeted him with a big smile, and I told him how happy I was to see him, and I wanted him to think and feel like there was a party happening in our school building and that he was the guest of honor. And the learning environment improved substantially for Francis. He was able to learn and reach his full potential in his education journey. And Francis graduated, and I miss him every day. But Francis taught me that when we all work together, regardless of our roles and with intentionality, we create positive outcomes for our students. We became a highly functioning team that worked hard to ensure that Francis had what he needed. And I saw that same thing at the convening in Los Angeles. As a paraeducator and critical friend in the Los Angeles convening, I supported the Adams 12 educators from Colorado. My role was to ask a lot of questions and to keep pushing them to think big and critically. It was clear to me during that convening that every team member from Adams 12 knew their students, their learning needs, and the issues that their education community faced. I was so happy to see them leave with a solid plan that has continued to grow and develop. And as a 23-year paraeducator, the most exciting part of this plan is focused on professional development for their paraeducators. They truly recognize that ESPs are essential stakeholders in student learning, and that they're taking steps in recognition of that all hands on deck approach will accelerate student learning and make them the 21st century learners that our student needs. Like our team came together in Maple Heights, Ohio, across, roles like parenting and administrators and certified teaching staff and education support professional. Adams 12 did their hard work for every individual student in their education community. Our convening in Los Angeles showed me what happens when all educators come together and focus on kids. This work gives me hope for every Francis out there. And I want to thank the NEA and all the teams for working together. And let's keep doing that hard work for our kids.
Thank you, Andrea. Work together intentionally. That is absolutely critical to the accelerated learning work. And I particularly want to lift up what you said about really working with your team to ensure that they knew the students and the issues, not just of the students, but the community in which they live, which is absolutely critical. And I would be remiss if I didn't end with the word that you ended with, and that is hope. We can't do any of this work without hope. So we're going to go ahead and open up the questions. We got one in already, but if you have questions, if you're participating with us live and you want to ask a question, please use your Q&A feature that you can find on your screen. Go ahead and type in your question. And the first question that we got was, now that 10 districts have piloted this program or approach, are there any plans to expand to additional districts? Of course, we currently have 10 sites that we are that are in our cohort, and we're sharing those learnings and resources around accelerated student learning with other districts. We, of course, are continuing our work to scale our labor management collaboration initiative across the country in partnership with our state affiliates. If you want to learn more about the journey of our 10 districts and the learnings alongside the resources that they are using, please go to NEA.org/accelerate, NEA.org/accelerate. Okay, so we are waiting for additional questions to come in while we're doing that. Donna, I'm going to go back to you. I gave you a minute to think about that. Why would you say this is union work?
You did. Thank you for giving me a few minutes to think about that. So I think it really comes down to, as PGCEA, our vision and our mission, which is that PGCEA is the catalyst for transformative innovation in Prince George's County Public Schools. And our mission is to amplify educator voices to promote a brighter future for educators, students, and the community we serve. We don't see our role as just the collective bargaining unit. Our role is so much greater than that, and to use our power and what we have available to us to really transform and bring change. Our schools are a reflection of our communities, and our communities are a reflection of our schools. It's a symbiotic relationship. And so not only did this convening bring us together with our management partners, but it really started and stimulated us thinking in an even grander view. So we're looking at bringing together all of the Department of Juvenile Services, social services, child protective services, the foster care system, to really look at the social system and the safety nets that are supposed to be in place for our students, and look at where those holes are, where children are slipping through, so that we can get to the root of a lot of the barriers to their learning, and really dig deep and come forward out of a work group with policy and legislative changes that need to be made to close those holes in our social safety net.
Oh, wow. I'm glad I asked that question.
I'm glad you did too.
Me too. Wow. We're taping this, right? I need to use that. That is a thank you so much. So a couple of people are asking how to get started. So I'm going to throw that out to the panel. What anyone can jump in and say how to get started with this. Now I will call on you, of course.
I'm not shy, Becky.
Go ahead. Jump right in.
I gave a minute for somebody else to step forward.
That's
but if
right.
they're not going to, I'm going to take it.
And they can follow you by all means. Go ahead, Don.
Honestly, it starts with picking up a phone and reaching out and just talking to one another. We started it last year, having all of our labor, there's 4 labor unions in our district, and sitting down every month in a meeting with them to talk about what are our shared interests and what are concerns, so that we can bring together a unified voice. And then reaching out to our legislators, our county council, our school board members. It starts with picking up a phone and listening and talking and communicating, and really building that, as I said, community of care, that we are all here. We have one goal in mind, that's singular in purpose, and that's really making Prince George's County, for us, the destination to be for our children, for our educators, and a community that everyone is proud to live and work in.
Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in? I'm going to ask about funding too. Have you accessed funding at the state level, at the federal level? So kind of think about that if you want to jump into that. Robert, I'm going to come to you with this question. Chrissy she just made a comment that it sounds a lot like community schools. Can you talk about the elements of this, the approach to accelerated student learning that are in line with the pillars of community schools?
Absolutely, Becky. I love what Dr. Christie's comments were, because it really did focus on one of the key things, which is communication. Many times when we think about, when we're getting a problem of practice or something that we want to study, we want to get into that prescriptive model. And the first thing we have to do is ask. So when you think about the community schools model, we talk about doing a community needs assessment, actually sitting down and studying what it is that our students, our parents, our families are the needs within the schools. I loved our parent, Adrienne, who spoke about food insecurities that we have in our communities and what we need to do to provide that, to bridge that gap. And here in San Bernardino, we've had situations where people wanted to donate eyeglasses, which we absolutely need eyeglasses, but we actually need washing machines for students because kids are missing schools because they don't have clean clothes. And you wouldn't know that unless you sat down and talked as a school team. So that would be one of the first steps to connect it within that. The next would actually be looking at forming a team. And so really having a point person to lead on that work. One of the most successful community schools models we have is when you have a community school liaison, whether it's a teacher or a paraeducator or someone that can act as that liaison to sort of coordinate all of those resources, those meetings, those times. So those would be two ways in which I would definitely argue for people to start off within the community schools model approach.
Thank you so much, Robert. Emma, I see you still on the phone. I hope you're still with us because I would love to get your voice back in. And Adrian, I'm gonna come back to you too. In terms of encouraging, how would you encourage other parents to get involved in this? Emma, are you still with us?
Hi.
Hi. So
Hello.
I just want to just invite you to share any additional thoughts you might have, or also any encouragement for other students to be involved, to use their own agency to help us address the reality that we do have academic and social and emotional gaps that we have to collaborate on addressing.
I think that the biggest thing when it comes to a student wanting to speak up about something is having a connection. Again, as I said, a connection with an adult on the campus. So I am very fortunate enough to have many connections within my community, within my neighborhood, within my schools, between everywhere where I basically live. And, you know, I know there are students that don't have that, but even having the welcoming of a teacher and building a connection with the teacher, you know, telling them about situations that you have at school, situations at home. I feel like just having that bonding with someone can give you more motivation and inspiration to speak out about a problem. Like me, I have connections and I felt comfortable speaking out on problems and I addressed them. And, you know, I addressed about how I said there's not enough resources for mental health. You know, parents don't really know how to help a student when it comes to their mental health. Because, you know, in the community I live in, there are parents that, you know, are immigrants and they never really grew up with the idea of, oh, like having a bad mental health is like not, is like, okay, like, you know, you're going to get over it, you know. And I think just showing like parents, like, you know, this is what's happening with students, and it's not all just about them being lazy with their schoolwork or them not wanting to get out of bed for school so early in the morning. It's maybe could be something deeper. So, you know, we had a workshop at my school about that, and we did it to a good amount of parents, and my mom actually did go, and my aunt did go, and they said that it was a very good just workshop to, like, you know, learn about, you know, the mental health of students and the signs so that a parent can help out and reach out to help the student. So, you know, I think just having that connection with an adult on your campus, or having connections with people around you, having those good bonds with other people will give you that motivation and inspiration to even step out of your comfort zone to speak on something. Because I've seen it at my school, I've seen it within my community, and, you know, it makes me very proud as students and both teachers for, you know, even making the effort to have a connection with students. You know, there's teachers on my campus that put in effort to make relationships and connections with students, and that makes me proud as a student.
Thank you so much, Emma. Adrian, I'm going to come back to you, and I want you to talk just real briefly. I know we're coming to the end of our time. How would you encourage other parents to get involved in accelerated student learning and other initiatives that bring together that whole community that Emma's talking about to create those connections with students and other education stakeholders?
Sure. Well, I'm a big believer in being who you want to see, right? So you have to be the example. You have to get out there. No role is too big or small. And I also believe in like not leaving any avenues open for people to say no, right? So big or small, you know, okay, you don't have the cash. All right, I'll take cash out. You know, you don't like talking on the phone, but I bet you like social media. So you can, you know, I try to address people in ways and like come to their level. Do you know what I mean? whatever they are into, it's like, oh, not only can you do that, but you can help these students by, if you're already driving one kid to school and you know they have friends, there's no harm in driving 3 more, which is what I do. But, just setting an example and showing parents a different way of doing things, because things have changed a lot since the pandemic. And we have learned so much that we could do with technology as far as work and play and helping. And it's so important to present that to parents, because most parents are busy. So you give them an opportunity to say, all right, you can't come to this meeting because you're at work, but we'll send you a recording, or you can come in via Zoom, and we welcome the ideas. We welcome everything that you have to give. Nothing should be left, unheard. Leave everything on the table. And a little bit of stalking on my end. I'll go up to the school and I'll talk to anyone. I'll get a parent and be like, hey, have you heard about our PTA? And 9 times out of 10, they think, oh, this is about to be a long, drawn out conversation. And it just doesn't have to be that way. If we just present ourselves in a way where we're always accessible, people will normally give that back.
Thank you so much. Meet them where they are, right? Always meet them where they are. So our final question is, who should we contact at NEA for questions? We're going to direct you to the our NEA Center for Professional Excellence and Student Learning, and you can go to educatorsupport@NEA.org to get additional questions answered, or to share some things with us, because we are a learning community, and we know that has to be it is actually a core value for us as educators. I'm not sure which one of you said this. I wrote it down, but I don't know who said it. But one of you said, use our power. Use our power. If there is power in community, there is power in people believing, understanding that it is their shared responsibility. There is power in collective voice. There is power in that collaboration that every one of you talked about. There is power in this cohort of folks that we gather together, who, I always say this, I'm so excited for the things that you are doing on your individual teams, but we would not have invited you and invested in the work that you are doing if you didn't first agree that you will learn and share what you learn. So I just want to end by thanking all of you for joining us in this conversation this afternoon. Our work, NEA's work on accelerated student learning, if you heard nothing else, you heard that it's this systemic shared focus to provide our students with the right now knowledge, skills, abilities they need to access grade level content and versus remediation, where you keep kids below grade level and until they magically catch up, or worse yet, give up. And that's not what we want. So our teams are learning how they can provide those kind of skills. And you heard different approaches from different teams, because they got together, as Robert said, and they decided what their needs were. And then they looked at their entire team and their entire community, and they mined the assets of all of them so that they could come together, so that we, all of us, can do what we must to be worthy of our students. Thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon. We look forward to continuing to tell our stories. You guys on the front lines, yeah, I'll be calling on you again. You're fabulous. Please, everyone, continue to enjoy the rest of your day.